Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. And today's episode is Xena Warrior Princess, Season 1, Episode 2, Chariots of War. The episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happens in the episode. So in this episode, Xena and Gabrielle are traveling. Xena decides to go and scout their route ahead of time to make sure that they don't have to double back, and leaves Gabrielle at the tavern that they're staying in. While she's scouting, she sees some villagers being attacked by men in chariots. She fights them off, but ends up hit with an arrow. So one of the villagers, Darius, who lost his wife while he was away at war and has children that he's raising, to his plague starts to heal her. Some of the other villagers aren't happy she's there because, again, she has a reputation that precedes her, and they're a village that has sworn to only follow peace, to never fight, who basically would be content to let themselves be slaughtered rather than try to defend themselves. They are that dedicated to the idea of peace. He even goes so far as to hide her weapons and armor while she's there. And the bad guy, Sickness, decides to trick the villagers and says that he's going to offer them peace. But while they're at that meeting, he hides his men because he plans for them to be slaughtered. And he sends his son, Ferris, to go and lead this meeting. Xena happens to notice these men hiding outside of the venue, so she attacks them. The villagers then blame her for ruining their shot at peace. So she decides to leave, gets her armor and weapons back, and heads away. While this was happening, Gabrielle at the tavern happened to meet Sferis without knowing who he was, and they form a connection, and Sferis reveals that, he wants peace, but his father's a little bit overbearing and is, very much not for peace, and how, he wants a different future than his father's mapped out for him, blah, blah, blah. So then when they end up confronting each other in a epic chariot chase and they come to a confrontation, Sickness basically lies to Sferis that, his older brother was killed by Xena in Corinth, and that leads Sferis to joining him to try to attack her. However, it is then revealed by Xena that in Corinth, actually, the brother was suing for peace and had come to her under a banner of peace, and it was his own men who wanted the war that ended up betraying him and stabbing him in the back, not Xena. And Gabrielle talks to Sferis saying, like, this is your chance. You can make a choice. You can choose peace. You can choose to turn away. And ultimately, Sferis does so and defends Xena against his father. His father, though, does not have any interest in peace, and so continues the fight, ultimately resulting in his death by Xena's hands. But once Sickness is dead, then Sferis does join the villagers for a true meeting in peace, and Gabrielle and Xena, again, move on from this village once everything has been settled. So now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, it is time to rank the episode, first on our mostly objective ranking list, which uses set values to determine the score, followed by the personal ranking list, which is just based on my opinion. So first off, we have our single episode supporting character introductions. Darius, the villager who helps Xena. Sickness, who is, of course, the warlord in this case, or like the bandit. And then Sferis, who is the son of Sickness, who befriends Gabrielle. We then have our multi-season main character development, which is Xena getting shot by an arrow, or injured by the arrow. And then we have the negative messaging or behavior, which is, of course, Sickness's first bad faith negotiation, luring the villagers under a banner of peace, planning to betray them, which, of course, Xena foils. but obviously that is negative messaging or behavior, which is minus 2 points, and that ultimately leaves us with a 5 out of 10. And that brings us to our mostly objective ranking list, which has Sins of the Past in first and Chariots of War now in second. My personal ranking is also Sins of the Past in first, Chariots of War second. Honestly, this episode didn't do a lot for me. I guess an honorable mention that I missed on the mostly objective ranking is the fact that there was a bit of flirtation between Darius and Xena. Of course, that's not going to go anywhere. One, it's the second episode. She's going to move on. Two, he was all about peace. She's the warrior princess. It was never going to work. So for every development, it was a regression. It would have canceled out. Similarly, Gabrielle and Sferris have, a bit of a flirtation, but again, was never going to work out. He's looking for peace and going to stay in the area. She, again, is going to move on with Xena. So them adding it in there just kind of felt like we already know as an audience it's not going to go anywhere. There's not really a point to it. It's a very subtle flirtation, really, so it's kind of like I don't really get why they put it in there. I didn't really enjoy those aspects of the story. I think Darius trying to kind of forcibly change Xena from the warrior princess, like he even, like he steals and hides her armor and weapons. He then gives her a dress to wear to the meeting, which leaves her at a disadvantage against the thugs that are there to slaughter them, that she saves them from. I just felt like it was a little bit iffy. Um, I did like the chariot chase, though. That was very fun, ancient car chase, essentially. That was very entertaining. Obviously, Xena's fighting's good. Gabrielle had some difficulty on the horse, which was also funny. Um, Overall, like I felt like the action scenes were really well done. I enjoyed those scenes, but basically everything around the action kind of was like a little bit on the boring side. Didn't really capture my attention or keep my attention very well. Um, as a result of that, I ultimately decided to give this episode a 4 out of 10, which is why it is in second place so far. But our series ranking so far on our mostly objective ranking is 15 out of 240, and on the personal ranking is at 14 out of 240. But with that, we have rewatched and ranked Xena Warrior Princess Season 1, Episode 2, Chariots of War. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.